Good evening, parents. My name is Mary Palomo, and I'm here again to talk to you guys about a new topic. And today's topic is going to be on speaking with a purpose. And so, what does this mean? A lot of the times, we don't really pay attention to what we're saying, who we're saying it to, and how we're saying it. So, we want to take a minute to really discuss speaking with a purpose and understanding what that's doing for us right now in these very uncertain times. So, as we mentioned last week, everybody's sort of getting adjusted to the routine of having their children at home, having to find um, sort of some more, an easier flow in your daily routine. And that comes with its combination of stressors and maybe just those overwhelming feelings, like we mentioned last week. And so, what do these feelings do for us? Oftentimes, they really drive a lot of what we say towards our children, towards our spouse, or towards family members that live with us, and probably don't set us off in the best of situations. So when we talk about speaking with a purpose, are our overwhelming emotions driving what we're saying and how we're communicating with our kids or loved ones, especially right now? We typically teach children, or we at least tell children, to come to us, to come to an adult when they're scared or when they're worried or when they're in a time of uncertainty, to come to us. But what do we really do when they do so? Sometimes they have a knack for coming and seeking our advice in the most unpredicted times, and probably when you're not up for it. You're not up for having that conversation with them, and maybe you're frustrated and you kind of feel like, oh, my child is very inopportune moments. They come and talk to me. And so what do we do with that? We sometimes lash out at them, or we tell them, oh, this is not the time I want to talk to you right now. I'm busy, we'll talk about it later. And we sort of discard a lot of what they're feeling, or even the topic of conversation they wanted to have with us in those moments. So again, going back to talking with a purpose, recognizing that, again, if you're teaching your child to come to you, making the time, even in those inopportune moments, making the time to listen. Because again, children don't necessarily know what your schedule looks like, what you're dealing with, what your emotions are, because you don't tell them. So it would be kind of unfair to them to tell them, you always pick the worst moments to come and talk to me, or to lash out at them in frustration. And so all we're really doing in that sense is pushing them away even further and kind of going against what we've been telling them. We tell them, come look for me, but yet when they do so, we lash out in a sense and we reject them. And so that puts a strain in the child coming to you again and wanting to talk about any of their uncertainties. And so right now there is going to be a lot more of that, maybe not really quite understanding, what's going on, when are things going to go back to normal, so to speak, maybe suddenly having unknown fears and them having a difficulty in identifying those fears. So as a parent, you are the one that models how to cope with things, how to even respond to certain fears. And if we respond to them with rejection when they want to talk about it, then they're likely not going to come around to look for you. And so what does that ultimately do? It makes a bigger wedge in communication between you and your child. It makes it harder to get them to understand maybe expectations that you have for them. Or if we're always talking to them in a negative way, in a negative response, like if we're always kind of upset about things and we don't really take the time to explain to them, hey, this is what I'm going through as well. Or I completely understand how maybe you're feeling. Or even just taking the time to actually listen, to pay attention to their body language, how they're communicating things with us. So maybe right now in these moments is learning to set a time apart from our busy schedules to listen to them, to actually take a minute and ask them, hey, how are you feeling? What are your thoughts right now? And it's a pretty good way of actually addressing whatever they may not know how to talk about. A lot of the times we assume that kids are just going to come up to us and tell us with plenty of words what they're feeling, and that may not be the case. If as adults we find it difficult sometimes to express ourselves or even identify what we're going through, it would be kind of unfair to expect that a child really knows how to do so at these times. and being open to talking about what they're going through. Yes, kids are sometimes going to say things that we don't agree with, that maybe seem kind of silly, or just that we don't really regard as something important, but for them it's a genuine concern. And so just taking the time to listen and to communicate with them with a purpose, trying to assist building them up on how to deal with these thoughts and these feelings rather than tearing them down. We forget the power of our words. Oftentimes we say things without thinking about it. We don't think about how the person's going to take it, and especially a child. Again, you are the captain of the ship that they are on, and you're the one that's navigating them through all this. They don't really have a sense of control in the situation, so they turn to you for that guidance. And again, that's something that we've always told kids. You come to us when you have problems, come to us when you need help, and yet it's unfair to turn them away when they do so. We sometimes criticize. We criticize what their concerns are. We think, oh, that's not even a big deal. But again, letting them know, okay, it's a genuine concern for you, but you know what, X, Y, and Z, this is how we're going to work on it, or how we're going to navigate through this. Also, being mindful of the language that we use with them. Oftentimes we say things that can be very hurtful without that being the goal in the conversation, but being mindful as far as, let me think about things before I say them. And this applies even to your children. A lot of the times we say, well, why don't you just get it? What's so difficult to understand? Well, again, they're barely learning, and we are those teachers that need to teach them how to get it. Because remember when you were a kid, how were you spoken to? Who were the people that you gravitated to for guidance? And it was usually somebody that listened to you, that was empathetic, and validated what you felt. So be that person for your children, because they really don't have many people to go to right now, and so you are that guiding light in this turmoil. So we just wanted to take a minute and talk about that, and just to kind of give you a reminder of being aware of how we talk to our child. Not just giving them commands, but actually explaining to them, teaching them, how to communicate better with us. And how do we do that is by modeling it. Modeling, speaking with a purpose, listening, and being able to process those things together as a family. So I hope this kind of gives you guys a reminder of taking that time out, listening to one another. We're really good at hearing each other out, but we don't actually listen to what we're saying. So take this time to maybe come up with a moment where you can say, okay, let's have a family discussion, or let's just have that one-on-one if you have multiple children in the home. Because again, having all of them have a discussion at once can be a little bit overwhelming. So maybe setting a time apart for each one of you guys to discuss and to better understand each other, to build a stronger relationship during this time. So I hope this helps, and we would love to hear your feedback. Give us comments, send us messages, anything that you can, to continue giving you guys some tips during these moments of difficulty. But hoping we can get back together soon, and we miss everybody, and we cannot wait until we're all together again.